All right, you ready?
Mhm.
This story is called Do You Know the Muffin Spider by KoboldKing.
Oh, dear.
Summary. Today is one of Chara's turns to control Frisk's body, but it is ruined by the lack of chocolate muffins at Muffet's bakery.
Oh, dear. That sounds like a very... That is...
Every single thing that has ever happened to me, Chara said solemnly, has brought me misery. Chara! They ignored Frisk's voice in their head, bowing their heads still lower. Is there even a point going on? What use is determination when there's no future? You know, you kind of deserve this. Well, blame the victim, as always. You, Frisk, are what is wrong with human society. Well, if you hadn't slept in, there might still be one left, Frisk said, annoyingly reasonable. Ugh, weren't they supposed to be the silly one? Chara groaned, pressing their face against the bakery glass in defeat. An airy voice interrupted out loud. We just cleaned that, dearie. My apologies, Chara said stiffly, standing up straight. They again eyed the selection of baked goods through the glass display, counting their disappointments. Muffet's bakery had made many improvements since coming to the surface. The lighting was good. The items were no longer ridiculously overpriced. Did I say longerly? Probably. Why not? The items were no longer ridiculously overpriced, and she now sold food in flavors other than spider and fermented spider. The thought of how many of those donuts Frisk had shoveled down their shared gullet still made Chara shudder. She had quite the assortment of diverse muffins here nowadays. Banana, lemon, blueberry, coffee cake. But no chocolate. Apparently one of the more popular options among the monsters and increasingly numerous humans who swung by here for breakfast, the chocolate muffins were long gone. Gone, like all their hopes and dreams. All right, so maybe they were being a little melodramatic. Still, though, they had always had a chocolate muffin when they came here. Walking out of here without one would feel off. The blueberry ones look good, Frisk offered. Let's get one of those. I don't want the blueberry. You know you've got a really one-track mind, right?
Like me.
I rarely have strong opinions, but when I do, they are stronger than life or death.
Wow.
If your pastry options are that strong, why don't you just bake your own? Mom's got tons of ingredients at the house. I haven't baked anything since... Chara trailed off, uncomfortable memories coming to mind. The point is, it's better just to buy what I want, even if that means coming in here with the spider who fed me to her pet a dozen times. There was an awkward silence in their head as they both spared a glance at the spider girl. She was smiling innocently at them, lashes fluttering over her massive monochrome eyes. Frisk sighed, dropping that avenue of discussion. What about the coffee one? You like coffee? I like coffee, but we've never had it in a muffin before. It'd be fun to try something new. I'm not spending my money on something I don't want. It's not as though her goods are cheap all of a sudden, and we're not made out of gold. Look, I'm hungry too, Frisk said finally, a hint of irritation in their tone. Just buy one with half of our allowance. They continued staring forlornly at the display case. They were hungry, or at the very least craving something sugary. They were on the verge of giving in when Muffet spoke again. Pardon me, dearie, she began in her peculiarly sing-song voice, but I can't help notice you seem a bit conflicted. Can I help you? Chara shook their head. No, I am fine. A faint glimmer of hope shone within them once more. Unless you have any more of the chocolates in the back that you haven't brought out yet? Oh, terribly sorry, but I don't think we do. The way she giggled didn't sound terribly sorry. The chocolate certainly goes fast, doesn't it? Hope again was snuffed out. Chara sighed. Very well. We will take... Oh, although... Muffet interrupted. Far be it from me to disrupt a sale, but since you are such a special customer, I feel obligated to let you know of a special deal that we could make. Her smile was as sweet as her old products line. Chara squinted at her suspiciously, but she had their rapt attention. I am listening to your proposal, they said. A simple trade, she purred in reply. I give you the first of a new chocolate pastry that we've put together, and in return... Her smile stretched to show a full complement of fangs. You give us your soul. The shop went deadly quiet. Chara stiffened in tension, trying to process whether they had heard her correctly. Some primal part of them made their blood run hot. They were primed and ready to fight or run away. Sounds like a deal, Frisk said happily. Chara let out a strangled croak out loud, causing Muffet to start giggling across the counter and Frisk to start laughing from inside their head. I'm only kidding, dearie. She cupped one of her 6 hands over her mouth, trying, but only barely trying, to conceal her mirth. As professional as she could come across when she wanted to, she wasn't many years older than Chara and Frisk. She could be as playful as a kitten who had just caught a bird. Ha! Chara laughed weakly.
That's my new favorite way of laughing.
Very funny. Did you actually have a deal, or... We're trying out a new recipe for chocolate muffins, Muffet sang. If you'd care to test them out for us, you can have one for free. As I said, a special deal for a special customer. That would be very nice of you, Chara said, smiling politely. I accept your deal. Muffet laughed again and backed away through the doors into the kitchen. When the doors flapped, they could briefly make out the sight of a massive spider web scurrying with tiny crawlers. They suppressed a shudder. Did you actually think that she was after our soul? Frisk asked, still amused. Chara glared into the thin air while letting their heartbeats slow back down. No! Stop laughing! And stop trying to sell your soul! Oh, cheer up! Frisk still plainly found this hilarious, but a hint of concern started to bleed through their tone. Are you really upset? Chara's smile was a thin line at this point. Though scaring people had once been their favorite variety of prank, personal experience had made getting spooked a bit less fun than it had been once. This particular trip to the bakery had so far brought a lot more stress than it had luxury. Still, it wouldn't be all bad if they could just walk out of this place with the chocolate muffins they wanted. Just a little startled. I'm surprised that you took it so well. I could tell that she was joking. They knew Frisk still had some reservations about the spider girl, but they could also tell Frisk felt a certain affection for her. She's even offering us a free sample of her new line. Think about that. Muffet? A free sample? It's probably her way of making up for, They trailed off uncomfortably, but Chara nodded. They could understand. Saying sorry directly could be difficult, but maybe this was Muffet's love language, as strange as that was. Muffet came back shortly with a tray of muffins that looked just like the normal chocolates, except, were those lumps chocolate chips that she had added? Was that the new recipe? Chara's mouth started to water. If these were as good as they looked and smelled, they would forgive every scare that they had ever taken at her too many hands. Maybe even all the deaths. Chocolate was serious business after all.
Wow.
Those look delicious, Chara said earnestly, trying, and probably failing, to not look particularly ravenous. We decided to experiment with the recipe, she giggled. Some of her hands set about removing muffins from the tray, while others played with her pigtails. It's gotten so boring back there in the kitchen. We wanted to improve the flavor and texture. And who should be the first to enjoy our improved recipe than the first human to show kindness to the spiders? Please help yourself, dearie. Chara didn't need any more prompting than that. They ferociously plucked one off the counter and dug into it, not caring how messy they might be. It was heavenly. It had the rich chocolate flavor that Muffet baked into her goods so well, perfectly moist at the same time. This was half the reason they didn't try baking themselves. Aside from bad past experiences, it would be just too hard to compete with how perfect the spider's baking could be now that she had finally stopped putting crunch. Their chewing stopped abruptly. Their head went dead quiet. Frisk seemed to be confused by the unexpected crunchy bit as well. Muffet remained smiling. That had better have been an eggshell bit. Chara grated the words in their head, eyes closed, before finally building up the courage to peek down at the muffin. The chocolate chips had legs. And wings. They appeared to be assorted flies and half of a cockroach. We really do owe you so much, Muffet sang with a happy sigh. Her sigh was echoed by what sounded like a million tiny voices from the kitchen. Thanks to your freeing us all from the underground, the spider clan doesn't have to be anywhere near as territorial. We don't have to cannibalize one another just to keep our numbers down anymore. But I'm sure you miss the old high-protein recipes as much as we do. After all, you're a spider fanatic. We saw you wolfing those donuts back then. So, Muffet was being generous. She just had a very skewed idea of what humans wanted. They stared at the muffin for a long moment before Frisk shrugged, taking control of their hand and trying to bring it up for another bite. Chara drew the line, seizing back control and stopping it halfway to their face. All right, so the real worst part of this was that if Frisk didn't mind eating this stuff, maybe it wasn't even a bad idea. Maybe modern humans would actually like this stuff. Chara had been dead for 100 years. How could they know what other humans would swallow these days? And as for them, maybe they could get used to coffee muffins after all. Well, Muffet asked expectantly, what do you think? Do we have a new favorite? I'm thinking we'll start transitioning to these one flavor at a time. Chara burst into the house so loudly that Toriel jumped, startled out of the book she was reading. She immediately looked at Chara with concern. My child, what's wrong? Is there an emergency? Chara took a deep breath. Mother! Their empty stomach made a rebellious sound. I need you to teach me how to make chocolate muffins.
Read more.
And that is the end of the story.
Read roar.
Yep, that was.
Read more.
Yeah.
Great.
That was
Did
definitely
you
a great.
leave any feedback for the spiders?
I'm sorry?
Did you leave any feedback for the
No,
spiders?
she just left.
I don't know that any feedback would be whether Muffin, Muffet, Muffin, whatever the spider girl's name is, will take any feedback. Flies and half a cockroach.
Random Japanese
Lovely.
people just like, ooh, that's good.
Yeah.
They like people that eat chocolate covered ants just like nom nom heard.
Yeah.
No.
Well, I mean,
Other bugs like crickets Maybe.
but not ants.
But that's the thing. So like,
I
maybe
know
they
it's a
eat
thing.
cockroaches.
I mean, maybe something small enough like an ant.
Cockroaches have a bad
I'm
smell.
picturing those big
I don't
American
like it.
Oh, I
cockroaches.
just realized that he was half a cockroach because Chara ate it.
Yep.
Yes.
I just realized.
With a nice crunch.
Yuck.
And Frisk
No,
was even going to
cockroaches
finish
have
it. I wonder if they brought it home.
Probably not.
Like those lollipops that have a scorpion in them or something. Those I could eat.
An actual
But
scorpion?
ants, yeah. Ants, no.
Why would you eat that?
Because it's in the lollipop.
I'll just sit over here and be silent.
If I had to eat a bug, then I would choose something like the crickets they still sell in those little packages that are things like cheddar flavored.
Cheddar flavored crickets?
Yes!
What?
Have you never seen those?
No, and I don't think I need to.
Okay.
I think I'm okay with cheddar flavored cheddar.
Anyway, the
Or
point is,
crackers.
I don't like disembodied ants or half ants.
I could
Or-
eat disembodied ants, then there wouldn't be anything.
Well, it would be the head.
Oh,
I
that's
don't-
part of.
Like
Or the leg.
half ants and ants in general.
You'll eat a whole ant, but you won't eat half an ant.
I would not
So
eat a
you'll
whole
bite
ant
into an
either.
ant and bite it in half, and you'll eat the half that's in
No,
your
but
mouth. 'cause
when
you
we
won't
went
spit
to
it
the
out,
bug
and then you won't-
festival and the theme was ants, they had those suckers that have bugs, but they had ants in them, and they were not all whole ants. It was just a scattering of ant pieces.
Why
I
would
would
you put
eat
dead
any-
bugs in a lollipop?
I would eat any of the other bug ones, but not that.
What is? Oh, I just realized that's your pan.
Yes,
It's glowing.
it has glow-in-the-dark stuff on
I
parts of it.
had no clue what that was.
Are there any more by KoboldKing?
what?
I'll have to go back and look and see.
Well, read them.
Do you have any final comments for this story and or the author?
We need more stories.
Write more stories.